Jun is a lonely loser who's only friends with the twin baddies he grew up with. However, they both start having a crush on him, so he decides to clap them both since he can't choose one. In this story, a family named the Jungujis come to greet their next-door neighbors, the Shirasakis. When they show up, Mrs. Shirasaki calls out to her son, Jun, to come greet their neighbor and her two daughters. When Jun greets the neighbors, one of the girls shyly greets him back. Sometime later, the same girl named Rumi mentions that one of her biggest mistakes was falling for Jun. She goes to see Jun, who's reading a book, and considers how he's perfect and is everything she ever wanted. Later, Jun comes to visit the girls, and Rumi finds him reading with her sister Naori. Naori is an avid reader like Jun, and they soon start discussing some biology. Rumi feels lost while they're talking, so Naori explains to her the fact that Jun knows everything is what made Rumi admire him. Sometime after, the Junguji girls go see Jun so they can hang out since they've not seen him in a while. They wore each other's clothes, but Jun was able to immediately recognize who was who. Apparently, only Jun and their mother can tell them apart, not even their dads. At the playground, Rumi comes to ask what Jun is reading. He thinks she's Naori and is shocked when he realizes it's Naori that's sitting next to him. Meanwhile, Rumi realizes that Jun seems to like Naori more than her and chases her more. Later, at school, Rumi is praised by one of her friends for being so athletic. While they're talking, some girls come to ask Rumi if Naori got on the bad side of a group known as RIZZ. Rumi knows that Naori always spoke her mind, which some girls didn't like. The RIZZ group refuses to ask Naori to join their group because they believe she's into their kind of stuff. Rumi knows Naori pretended like it didn't bother her even though she felt it did a little bit. However, Rumi feels affected by the whole thing. Because of this, she goes to confront the RIZZ group, but the girls don't listen to her at all. Shortly after, the girls from before inform Rumi that there's trouble. Meanwhile, Jun does conflict resolution between Naori and Firuz, and both girls apologize to one another. After that, Jun also gets Firuz and Rumi to apologize to one another, so he leaves the girls to bond. As expected, this makes Rumi fall harder for him. After that event, Rumi realizes she's been in love with Jun. When they get to middle school, Rumi tries to talk to Jun, but she's unable to bring herself to because he's with Naori and one other friend. She's been talking less to him because she has started caring about appearances, but Naori didn't have such issues. She spotted Jun and Naori walking home together several times, and she's always wanted to spend more time with him too. Sometime later, Rumi does some makeup and sends a text to Jun to follow her to the convenience store. When they leave the store, they both head back to the playground where they used to play so they can chat for a bit. When they sit, Rumi tries to start a conversation with Jun about a book Naori has been reading. While he's talking, she keeps peeking at him and eventually forces herself to ask him if he'd like to go out with her. This surprises Jun, but Rumi asks him if he doesn't want to experience dating before they get into high school since many other people are dating. She explains that she's known him forever and trusts him, so she's certain he'll be comfortable with her. When he doesn't reply, she asks him if she's not good enough, but Jun doesn't say anything. In the silence, Rumi feels like she's going to explode. Eventually, Jun asks her if she's sure about what she's saying, and when she confirms, he agrees. At that point, she almost explodes from excitement, but later holds his hands. Later, Rumi breaks the news to Naori, who congratulates her on her new relationship. Eventually, Rumi began to experience guilt for stealing Jun away, but the guilt began to fade away as they spend more time together. The fact that they were dating really excited Rumi, and they even shared their first kiss together. On a certain day, after they make out somewhere around school, Jun asks Rumi why they're keeping their relationship a secret. Rumi reminds him it's more fun as a secret. Wednesday, when she gets home, Rumi tells Naori she was so scared someone would see them, but Naori teases her that they both need to learn to keep it in their pants. Rumi keeps fighting with the desire to talk about her relationship and her desire to keep it a secret. Suddenly, she remembers she also took Jun from Naori, but she realizes that Naori has herself to blame because she never told Jun how she felt all those years. Sometime later, Rumi heads out to the store again and texts Jun to come with her. Inside of her, she beats herself up for being a terrible sister because she played dirty. When she meets Jun, she asks that they end their relationship that night, and that surprises him. He asks her where all of this is coming from, but she gives him the classic speech that it's not him, but it's her. She thanks him for everything and tells him she had a lot of fun. In a flashback to their childhood, Rumi remembers that she's a terribly ugly person. In another flashback, Firuz and her group find Naori reading a book with a romantic look. Firuz believes it's a dirty book and accuses Naori of being a perv. This annoys Naori, so she calls Firuz a stupid person who mocks things she doesn't understand because of her superiority complex. This annoys Firuz deeply, but Naori just walks out. As Naori steps out, she realizes she herself has an easily wounded self-esteem, a deep sense of shame, an extensive reading far beyond her years, and an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. Sometime later, Naori overhears some boys telling Rumi that she's crazy because she's a loner and loves it. However, Rumi doesn't take it lightly and walks out on the boys. Regardless, Naori was satisfied being aloof, and she told herself she had no interest in ordinary humans. However, this changed on the day Jun brought her out of her shell and made her apologize to Firuz. He brought her back to Earth and made her feel what it was like living in reality. At the time, she happily saw him as a jerk. Years later in that flashback, Naori approaches Jun and his friends, whom she teases because she got a higher test score than him. That friend reminds her that she won't get far with men because she's always acting so superior. However, Naori insists she won't even notice or fall for a man man who's not better than her. Shortly after, Rumi steps into the room and Naori excitedly greets her. Rumi realizes she's known for a long time that Naori was in love with Jun, so she couldn't tell him how she felt because of her sister. Rumi reminds Naori to double-check her test answers, but Naori insists that it's not fun, but she prefers finishing before everyone else and still getting higher scores. She believes she'd easily become the top student if she tried harder. This surprises Jun. Naori ensured that she always finished first and remained first, so she'd know that luck and skill had smiled upon her. It's at the point of knowing this that she plans to reveal her feelings to Jun. Sometime later, Naori asks God why he's forsaken her. However, Jun tells her to quit blaming God for her test score, but she insists that God has forsaken her. Regardless, Jun tells her that they all know she's smart, so she needs to put away her weird routines. Meanwhile, Rumi watches them as they walk home together and realizes she's just been giving herself too many excuses. A while after, Rumi tells Naori that she's dating Jun, and the ray of hope in Naori's heart dies. However, she keeps a cool demeanor and tells Rumi she's happy for her. When Rumi expresses her surprise, Naori tries to muffle her emotions with ice cream and tells Rumi that they're perfect for each other. Later that night, Naori asks God why he's forsaken her again and goes to her bed to cry. The next day, Naori helps Rumi plan a hot dress to impress Jun on one of their dates. After helping her, Naori wonders what Jun and Rumi talk about while they're alone. In the present, Rumi tells Naori that she broke up with Jun. Confused, Naori asks why, so Rumi tells her that she just figured that it was time even though she likes him. Rumi explains that she begged Jun to break up with her and forced him to accept it. Finally, she thanks Naori for not saying anything about her and Jun going out. That night, Naori thinks in silence. Meanwhile, Jun tries to read but can't bring his attention to the book. Sometime later, Jun and Naori's family meet up for a cookout. Naori asks Jun to help her pick one of the meats, while Rumi listens to their mother's chat. At this point, they're now in high school and are on holiday. Rumi peeks at Jun and Naori but quickly looks away to focus on their two families' cooking tradition. Later, the men start to debate about the best fighter-bomber jet while grilling. When Naori gets tired of listening to them, she goes to join the ladies, who watch the men have a heated debate. When Mrs. DPS Junguji fawns over her husband, Rumi also admires Jun. Eventually, Naori tells Rumi it astounds her how much he takes after their mother and then goes to chat with the guys. For a moment, Rumi remains surprised about what Naori said, especially after what happened. In another flashback, Rumi tells Jun that they need to break up. After he asks where this is coming from, she apologizes and thanks him. Regardless, Jun tries to find out what happened, but she tells him he didn't do anything. Finally, she asks him to go out with Naori because Naori is the one for him and not her. A day before the family cookout, Rumi's mom reminds her about the cookout the next day. Her mom asks her to ask Jun about the choice of food the next day, and Rumi reluctantly agrees. Rumi reluctantly rings the doorbell of the Shirazakis but finds out that Jun's parents are going out on a date, leaving her to go check on him alone. She steps in and finds Jun sleeping, so she goes to his side to watch him sleep. When she waits for some time and he doesn't wake up, she opens the curtains to force him to wake up. When he gets up, she tells him to clean up and quickly lies on his bed to take in his smell while he's cleaning up. When he enters the room, she quickly gets up, so he asks her what she came to ask. Rumi asks him about his food preferences, so he tells her anything is fine. When he asks if there's anything else, she reminds him that he gave her his word that he'll date Naori and hasn't done it. He thinks she's joking, but she tells him she wouldn't have broken up with him otherwise. She explains that Naori has been in love with him forever, which surprises Jun. Regardless, Jun tells her that it doesn't really matter since he chose to go out with her and not Naori, but Rumi pleads with him. When he says he'll think about it, she says that's not enough and accidentally falls on him when she gets up. For a moment, they almost kiss, but Rumi stops when she remembers Naori and asks him to go out with Naori. She asks Jun to forgive her but reminds him Naori is her family. That morning, Naori wakes up and finds her father watching Star Trek. Later, Naori receives a text from Jun asking her to go out for lunch. She believes Jun must have been down in the dumps because of the breakup and wonders if she's the replacement, but she doesn't mind. Meanwhile, Rumi helps her friend Rira on the basketball court. Later, Naori shows up exquisitely dressed at Jun's door. She explains that she happens to be free, so she'll go out with him, so he asks her if she'd like to go to a movie. She excitedly agrees and they go to the mall. While on the escalator, they tease each other about who's a bigger science fiction nerd. In a fantasy, they're both transported to a different realm, where Naori tries to destroy Jun with science fiction powers for his blasphemy. She's soon pulled out of her fantasy by the elevator, and they enter the theater. Once they're seated, Naori asks Jun if Rumi reached out to him. She explains that Rumi's always been going out since the break started, and Jun notices her worry. While the movie runs, Jun is entranced by it, but Naori believes it's an average movie. She realizes he's so captivated by the movie because it fits the narrative of his breakup. When they step out, Naori asks Jun if they can change locations since there are too many people there. While they're walking, Naori teases Jun about the way he introduced himself when they just met. When she further teases him about being a nerd, he tells her to stop, and she notices his face is red because he's been blushing. Eventually, he admits that he's a nerd, and they continue their walk. Later that evening, Jun brings Naori a hot drink in case she's cold because of her exposed legs. When she starts to tease him about his fetish for short skirts and pulls up hers, Jun retracts and tells her to pull it down. Later, when she smacks his head, they become silent, and Jun remembers what Rumi asked him. He asks her if she'd like to go out, but Naori explains that she has to refuse. She adds that her mother has told her to stay away from people who watch Star Trek instead of Star Wars, or or those who love Sherlock Holmes. For a moment, Jun just watches her in shock, then Naori laughs because she was teasing him. She explains that she saved that up for years in case he asked her out and tells him she was kidding. Eventually, Jun calms down and proposes they head home. When he gets up, Naori reaches out for him to hug her, so he reluctantly does. Later, Naori returns home and she asks Rumi to show up in her room before going to bed. When she finishes the dishes, Rumi goes to Naori's room and learns that Jun asked her out that day. Immediately, Rumi tells her she's happy for her, but Naori asks her if she's really okay with it. Eventually, Naori says she didn't see it coming, so she turned him down. This surprises Rumi, but Naori replies that she was kidding. The next day, the men continue talking about fighter jets after dinner with Naori around. Meanwhile, Rumi washes the dishes. Later, Jun takes his dad home since he's already drunk. As they're living, Rumi tells Naori to walk them home, so she agrees. The next day, Rumi confesses everything she did to Rira, who thinks she made a stupid decision. At Jun's home, Naori takes over Jun's bed, so he stays on the chair. She asks him to come to the bed, but he becomes embarrassed and tells her to chill out. When she insists, he joins her on the bed, and then she rolls over to lie on his chest. He protests at first, but later allows her. While chatting, Naori learns that many of Jun's interests in books and movies came from him following her interests. When he admits it, he starts to blush, but dismisses her. However, she turns him over and kisses him. Sometime later, Rira playfully reminds Rumi she's an idiot. She claims that even if it was okay to break up with Jun because of her sister, it makes no sense to push them to start dating. However, Rumi claims that she feels bad for trying to beat her sister to get Jun. Rira doesn't know why Rumi finds that weird, so he asks her what she'll do if Jun actually falls for Naori. Regardless, Rumi tells herself that she did the right thing. Rira asks Rumi if she really believes killing her feelings would make things work out for everyone. She reminds her that she'll still be sad and she has to learn to bring happiness to herself first before she can bring it to others. Monday, Rira tells Rumi she loves Jun deeply and she agrees. Eventually, Rira tells her she's made up for the supposed sin of beating her sister to get Jun. However, she claims the ball now lies in Jun's court because he can simply break up with Naori and come back to Rumi if he really wants it. But Rumi doesn't think that will happen because Jun was always in love with Naori from the start. Regardless, Rira playfully tells her she's talking like a loser, which is unlike her feisty nature on the basketball court. Later, Rira tells Rumi she thinks she's the more attractive one because Naori strikes her as a schemer, even though she doesn't have any issues with her. Rira reminds Rumi she's in the same class with Jun, so she has to make it count. Meanwhile, Jun nerds out with his friend Toyoshige about a movie fight scene. Suddenly, Naori steps in to ask what they're talking about, and Jun becomes uncomfortable when he remembers their kiss. Naori mentions a romance angle in the movie that the boys hadn't really considered, and she starts to scream about her passion for a specific character. When Naori starts to talk too loudly, Jun tries to get her to calm down, but the three of them later make plans to go see the movie together. Shortly after, Rumi enters and reminds Naori it's time to return to her class because lunch break is over. Rumi finally chases Toyoshige from her seat and takes her seat next to Jun. They both start to chat about how Naori likes giving people nicknames from anime, just like her dad. Meanwhile, some girl in Naori's class called RIZZ comes to ask her what she got on her test when she notices she's looking gloomy. Naori says she got 96, and RIZZ feels bad because Naori beat her by 3 marks again. Later, both girls plan a duel in their math test, where the loser has to eat a lot of sweets. Naori refuses because she's conscious about her weight since she gained some weight over the holiday, so RIZZ suggests maybe she starts working out a bit. This annoys Naori further, so RIZZ suggests that the person who loses will pay for unlimited karaoke. Naori loses the duel and has to pay for the karaoke. She texts Jun to go home without her, so Jun decides to follow Toyoshige to his place. This excites Toyoshige because he has a treasure chest of goodies to show him, but Jun knows Toyoshige isn't right in the head. When they get to his place, Toyoshige has a collection of barely clad girls on his wall, and it's clear this is his collection. Jun looks around in shock, but Toyoshige assumes he specifically came to his house to see his collection. Jun tries to look away because he hasn't seen stuff like this before, but Toyoshige tries to make him see a moody collection with an actress that looks like Naori. When Jun looks out, he realizes that Toyoshige has all 7 parts of the collection with the actress that looks like Naori. Jun asks him if he likes Naori, so Toyoshige admits that he's into her. He mentions that he even asked her out back in middle school, which surprises Jun since he never heard about it. Toyoshige realizes she kept it a secret for him and explains that he asked her out shortly after they started middle school. Intrigued, Jun asks him what made him fall for her, and Toyoshige blurts out that it was her face and chest. He explains that he's asked out many girls in his time, but he's never seen a short girl with such jugs, especially one who shares the same hobbies with him. When he's done talking, Jun remembers that the girls in their school refer to Toyoshige as a Dumbo who only cares about jumping people's bones. This triggers Toyoshige, and he says jumping bones isn't all he cares about. Shortly after, Jun asks him if he considers Naori a loli since she's not so tiny and reminds him that she'll be pissed off if she knows he sees her that way. However, Toyoshige doesn't think she will. He admits he found the Sensual movie collection before he asked Naori out, but he's actually friends with her because he actually likes her personality. Jun still reminds him not to watch such movies about someone he considers a friend. So Toyoshige points out that he had to do that so he doesn't get in between Jun's new relationship with Naori. Jun is shocked when he learns that Toyoshige knows that Naori was in love with him, and it surprises Toyoshige that Jun only found out recently. Jun confesses that he was actually surprised when Naori agreed to go out with him. them, so Toyoshige tells him he's so jealous that Jun is able to live the dream by getting twins to be in love with him. Jun doesn't feel that way, but Toyoshige reminds him that he also likes Naori. However, Jun admits that this was a long time ago, but he now has feelings for Rumi since she was the one he dated. When he starts to complain, Toyoshige considers impaling him with a sword for his stupidity. Eventually, he tells Jun that he has to come to terms with this. Meanwhile, Rumi plays a game on the court. When she gets the ball, she attempts to dribble the lady in front of her, but they both end up tripping. Somehow, Rumi falls down and passes out. Later that evening, Jun goes to the Junguji's home. While chatting with the parents, he learns that Rumi's been holed up in her room for a while after spraining her ankle during practice. Her mother knows she's worried because she was putting in a lot of work to make the first team as a first year. Jun proposes that he go talk to her, and she comes out to see him when he knocks. Once inside, she tells him it's like nothing ever works out for her and she always messes up everything. When she mentions that she'll never be able to make the first team, Jun tells her not to say that because she always puts in her best effort. Even though he knows what to say, he tells her it's okay to cry, so she starts crying and then hugs him. Bawling, she explains that she tried her best and this sucks. Jun realizes she never cries in front of people and it must be hard for her to never complain. When he places a hand on her face, she closes her eyes and they almost kiss. Moments before they can, Naori comes to ask how she's feeling and they have to come out. When they step out, Naori is glad Rumi is feeling better and then asks Jun what he did to make her feel better. When he doesn't answer directly, that draws her attention. During dinner, Naori notices that Rumi's eyes were red from crying. She also noticed that Naori was trying not to look at Jun and that Jun was trying not to look Naori in the eye. Good luck to you guys who think you can hide cheating from a woman. The next morning, Naori and Jun walk to school, so she chats with him like usual about classic books. While she's talking, he doesn't talk and later apologizes that he's spaced out. When she points out that he's not himself today, he replies that he doesn't think so. When she presses on, he becomes defensive, so Naori apologizes and goes to class. Later, Naori spies on Jun's class and Toyoshige startles her from behind. They both enter, and Naori learns Toyoshige doesn't know where Jun is. Toyoshige mentions that Jun told him about their relationship, so he tells her he's happy for her. Naori realizes Jun told him because he wanted advice, but she decides not to pay attention to that. This impresses Toyoshige, and he realizes she's the dream girl. Later, he asks her how things were between her and Jun when they were kids. Naori admits that they just spoke about books and movies, but Rumi got on better with Jun than her. At that point, Toyoshige understands, so he asks Naori if she knows who Jun's first crush was. She believes it was Rumi, but Toyoshige tells her she's wrong. Meanwhile, Rumi meets with Jun and tells him they can't meet privately after this time, so they don't get swept up in their emotions. However, Jun tells her he doesn't think he can move on from her. She calls him stupid, then reminds him that he's always been in love with Naori, who loves him too. Jun realizes that's why she broke up with him, and he accuses her of going out with him so she can break up with him. Rumi apologizes and says she wants them to be happy together, but Jun tells her she doesn't get it. He admits he liked Naori, but she was just his first crush, but he fell in love with Rumi when they started dating. Confused, Rumi accuses him of never telling her he loves her, so he apologizes because he thought she knew. She starts to cry and calls him a moron for thinking she knew. Meanwhile, Naori becomes red when Toyoshige tells her the truth. He becomes worried when he notices her crying, but she tells him she's gonna fix this herself. In the basement, Rumi thanks Jun and tells him there's something else she's also been keeping from him. Guys, I think she's pregnant. Later, Rumi asks Jun when he got over Naori. Jun explains that it was sometime in middle school when he tried to get Naori to see him as an equal by beating her grades, but she never took notice of it. When he realized he was the only one who saw them as rivals, the magic wore off. Apparently, that was around the time he started to date Rumi. Regardless, all of this still doesn't change Rumi's guilt. She tells Jun he'll forget all about her once he starts dating Naori. Jun thinks that'd make him a jerk, but Rumi decides to settle for the satisfaction of having Jun choose her even for a short while. They chat for a while, but Rumi soon leaves for practice. Before she leaves, Jun tells her that he couldn't believe how fun it was dating her, but she runs away while trying to quell her tears. Later, Jun walks in on Naori crying, and she accuses Toyoshige of talking dirty to her to cover up. This shocks Jun, but he quickly goes on Toyoshige's side because he knows Naori and Toyoshige are always fighting. Bros before hoes, I mean farming equipment. This surprises Naori, so Jun asks her the real reason she was crying. She even says that an eyelash was caught between her eyes and demands to know where he was. Eventually, Jun and Naori head home and continue nerding out about science fiction. While they're walking, Naori suddenly asks if they can go on a Sunday date towards the end of the month, so Jun agrees. Later, RIZZ is surprised that Naori is bold enough to ask Jun out on a date. Eventually, she asks her what her plans are for the date, but Naori replies that she doesn't even know what to wear. RIZZ reminds her a date is a chance to make a different impression, and she needs to formulate plans immediately. She makes some suggestions and teases Naori about her extra weight, but gets smacked on the head. Eventually, RIZZ admits boys don't really care about clothes because she can just wear hot lingerie. That night, Rumi enters the living room and finds Naori watching a rom-com. Suddenly, Naori asks her about fake orgasms, then informs Rumi that she's going out on a date with Jun. Rumi reminds her to keep herself in check, but Naori assures her that she's not going to go all the way, but maybe partway. Before she leaves, Naori asks Rumi if she'd like to come along since she can keep them in check if she's worried, but Rumi refuses. Eventually, Rumi asks where they're going, so Naori says they're going to a park. Shortly after, Jun gets a message from Naori that they're going to Marine Park the next day, reminding him to sleep early. The next morning, Jun opens the door and finds Naori dressed quite well. He's amazed, but she later nudges him to speak and he confesses that she looks amazing. They soon reach the park and Rumi tries to put the idea of riding the Ferris wheel in his mind because she's too arrogant to ask. They chat about old times, visit places in the park and take pictures. When they reach the aquarium, Jun watches Naori watch the fishes and remembers how he kissed Rumi at that spot. Later, Naori notices him staying back and rips him a new one for not joining her to look at stuff. They keep looking around until they get a hands-on center, which really excites Naori. She sees a small dead shark put on display, then starts to pet it. When she realizes the terrible smell has stuck to her fingers, she forces Jun to smell it too, so they can share the experience. Shocked, Jun pinches her nose. Meanwhile, Rumi's team plays against another team while she watches from the sidelines. They didn't do well in this game, and it's clear they won't make the semifinals. At the park, Naori and Jun have a good time. While they're on the field, a breeze blows and raises Naori's skirt up. In a moment, Jun's eye captures the sight. When the breeze stops, Naori becomes embarrassed and covers herself up, asking him if he saw. He also becomes embarrassed, then explains that he got hit in the face with all her bare skin, so he asks if she wasn't wearing any underwear. She insists that she was and tells him to immediately tell her what he thought about it. Jun raises his hands and explains that all he remembers seeing is her behind. Embarrassed, Naori explains that RIZZ was the one who told her to wear this and tells him not to misunderstand. Confused, Jun helps her up because there's nothing to misunderstand. This relieves Naori, so she asks him if he at least found it hot and hopes that he will think about it later tonight. Jun becomes embarrassed and asks her what on earth she's talking about. She immediately calls him a perv but smiles to herself when she turns around. For the life of me, I cannot understand women. Later that evening, they enjoy a view over the fields and talk about more classic movies. After watching Naori for a while, Jun suggests they ride the Ferris wheel and tells her he thinks her nail polish is beautiful. Meanwhile, RIZZ chats with Rumi and points out that she noticed she's gotten more relieved about the Jun issue since the last time. Rumi explains that she's gotten over most of it, so RIZZ doesn't argue but tells her there's nothing to be gotten from holding back. Rumi is happy that at least RIZZ is enjoying romantic bliss in her relationship, but RIZZ confesses that she's in the middle of a crisis herself. She explains that it's like her boyfriend wants action every time they meet, and they had a fight 2 weeks ago. Rumi feels bad about it, so she asks RIZZ why she didn't tell her about it earlier. RIZZ didn't want to bother her since she was going through a lot, so Rumi asked if it's true that boys only think about jumping bones when they get a taste of it. When Rumi goes silent, RIZZ figures that Rumi must be worried that Jun and Naori would get it on. However, Rumi doesn't let her finish the sentence. In a flashback, Rumi recalls when she and Jun went to the Ferris wheel. In the present, Jun and Naori ride the Ferris wheel. While they're riding, Naori confesses to him that she was in love with him forever when they were younger. She explains that her goal to finish in school was a bet she made with herself. She remembers the rare times he beat her grades and how much it meant to him. It made her realize how much she means to him and how he always thought about her. She now realizes she was a childish coward because she was terrified of telling him how she felt. That's why she chose to complicate things and make a bet with herself. Her bet was that she'd confess her feelings for him if she could beat him without checking the answers. She mentions that she's so stupid, so Jun tells her she's not, at least not as much as him. When they both get home, Jun considers telling Naori the entire truth, so he invites her over to watch a movie. After she comes over to see the movie, she becomes excited about it and tries to read a book the movie is based on. When Jun hands her the book, she pulls him on top of her. When he tries to get up, she jumps on him and pushes her chest into his face. For a moment, he struggles to breathe, but she soon puts her face against his. When he asks her what has gotten into her, she asks him if she needs to spell it out and kisses him. He tries to kiss her back, but suddenly flashes back to the time when he visited the Ferris wheel with Rumi. When Naori notices his hesitation, she tells him he can keep going if he wants, and he can do anything he wants with her. However, Jun tells her he can't do it even though they're dating. Suddenly, Naori mentions that they're not dating, at least not according to her. Confused, Jun asks what she means. She explains that she never said she had agreed when he asked her out, which means her decision is still on hold. Jun thinks this doesn't make sense, so Naori tells him she knows he's still in love with Rumi and she broke up with him because of her. She knows Rumi took it upon herself to look after her, and that decision is now crushing her. She admits she also knows she was his first crush. Later, Jun asks her if all of this has been an act, so she tells him he's been silly. She tells him she's in love with him, like she told him, so he could have gone all the way because she meant it. This surprises Jun, so she tells him she doesn't mind if he's still in love with Rumi as long as he comes to her. Inside of her, Naori knows she made the move because she knows he wouldn't do it. She did it because he looked ready to dump her if she hadn't. She teases him for being so into it, so he tries to explain that he got caught up in the moment. Eventually, she cups her jugs and asks what she is to do with her passion that is spiked up. Embarrassed, Jun turns away and tells her not to ask him. She calls him a jerk, then moves closer to ask if he wants to feel her pointers. Jun tells her to stop with the weird jokes, and he asks her if she truly knew about Rumi's plan all along. Naori admits she knew everything and tells Jun he and Rumi are both fools and they could have planned their teenage teenage crisis better. Eventually, she reminds him he's still single and what he has to do is up to him. She says he can forget all this and start all over with her, or he can also choose to go back to Rumi. She admits she wanted to let him go after she brought him to a point where he couldn't live without her, so she tries again. She moves closer to him and places her hands on his lap, but Jun tells her she's scaring him. He tells her he isn't getting back together with Rumi because he plans to break up with Naori and then leave things as they are with Rumi. He planned to do that and then sit down to consider his options for a while. He explains that dating Naori when his feelings aren't with her or anywhere else is an insult to her. He admits she's his first crush and there were many times he felt he was doing fine by not breaking up with her, but because he cares so much about her, he started to feel trapped by the whole thing. Tai surprises Naori, but he tells her he thinks she's very attractive and she means the world to him. This shakes Naori so much that it breaks her initial composure. Eventually, she accuses Jun of being a jerk and a virgin, then threatens to tell Rumi he tried to jump her bulbs if he doesn't repeat what he just said. Eventually, he tells her she's super attractive and means the world to him. He begs her to stop this because he's having a hard time getting through this. This satisfies Naori, so she hugs Jun even though she knows that the three of them are going to have to go back to being in a love triangle like in the old time. Any destination is a dead end once you reach it. However, she wants to enjoy it this time because they can fight for this fair and square, especially since she has such a banging body. Next up, she plans to deal with her sister. Later, Rumi asks Naori if something happened with Jun since she followed her to the convenience store. Naori admits that it's part of the reason, so Rumi decides to hear her out. After explaining it all, Rumi seems confused. Naori explains that she and Jun aren't dating, so Rumi asks her if she lied to them. Amused, Naori asks Rumi if she really thought she'd accept the relationship offer with Jun wholeheartedly and live oblivious to the truth. She explains that it pissed her off, and she tells Rumi to mind her own business. Rumi is confused, so Naori asks her if she really thought she needed to punish herself for making the first move. Rumi admits that she just wanted the both of them to be happy together, but it makes Naori laugh and remember a great movie writer she knows. She tells Rumi that she knows what must have been going through her mind, which is just crap, but Rumi says she meant it because she knows Naori and Jun loved each other. When she watched him talk with Naori about his hobbies even while they were dating, that was another reason she wanted to bow out. This makes Naori laugh, and she tells Rumi she's stupid for dating him for a year just to dump him. Regardless, Rumi points out that she and Jun weren't meant to be more than friends, and that's why she did it. However, Naori tells her nothing she's saying is coming from her heart, but it's just stuff she thought up. Rumi tells her she wouldn't get it because she felt like Jun didn't see her as a girl. Apparently, she always struggled with it and considered breaking up much earlier. She remembers a day with him where he apologized for picking a movie she didn't like. Eventually, she forcefully told him she liked it but felt wrong the more she noticed him going out of his way for her. Because of that, she felt bad for asking him out. Naori realizes that Rumi couldn't talk to her about this because she felt guilty towards her, so she fought through it alone. However, Rumi tells her that she didn't tell her because she acted like she didn't care. She points out that Naori was the one always having fun with Jun, but Naori asked her when she ever asked her to break up with him. She tells Rumi she simply assumed that's what she wanted. Naori tells Rumi to stop pitying her because she knows how to get what she wants because she's not stupid or weak. In fact, Naori cried a lot when this happened. Eventually, Naori tells Rumi to get over herself, and that annoys Rumi. She tells Naori she doesn't have to take this crap from her because she was the fool for trying to look out for her sister. Meanwhile, Toyoshige demands to know why Jun didn't jump Naori's bones. He calls him an a-hole for embarrassing the poor girl. However, Jun tells him he couldn't since he was trying to end the relationship. Toyoshige still doesn't see his point, but he realizes Naori attempted it because she knows he wouldn't follow through. When Jun tells him he doesn't know what to do, Toyoshige calls him a moron. Jun explains that he's chosen to do nothing because he doesn't know which of the sisters is better to go with. This annoys Toyoshige, and he tells him he's got it all wrong. Outside the store, Naori agrees with Rumi's decision because she's been wanting to stop talking to her sister, but to talk with Rumi heart to heart. She tells Rumi to stop trying to put the weight of an elder sister on her shoulder since they both popped out minutes before one another. She reminds her that it's stupid to let that weigh her down. Rumi recalls that Naori was always carefree, but she always tried her best to keep her in check because she considered herself her big sis. In the present, Naori suggests she'll drop the little sister act too and not add that to her name again. Confused, Rumi asks her if she hates being her little sister. She assumes that Naori is angry because she said all those mean things, so she apologizes. However, Naori tells her she has a way of taking things negatively and points out that this is not what she meant. She tells Rumi to forget this big sister and little sister crap so they can face each other as people. Eventually, Rumi confesses that Naori is the kind of person she dislikes most if she stops looking at her as her sister. Especially since she's a nerd and can't go a second without saying something weird, she admits they would be friendly, but would never be friends in another world. Naori agrees they wouldn't be friends either because Rumi's the kind of person who's too friendly with people, which is just cringe. This annoys Rumi, so she tells Naori to tone it down a bit. Meanwhile, Toyoshige tells Jun he didn't choose not to make a decision, but he ran away from it. He reminds him the twins are doing all they can, but he's the only one choosing to twiddle his thumbs. Jun admits that he doesn't know what to do, so Toyoshige tells him he's overcomplicating things. He tells him to dumb it down by thinking about who he would want to bang more. When Jun tells him to take this more seriously, Toyoshige tells him he has to focus on his feelings more than his thoughts if he wants to stop being indecisive. Outside the store, door. Naori tells Rumi she doesn't have to force herself to give up on Jun. Rumi tells her she's over it, so Naori mentions that she and Jun did the deed the day they went to the park. This shocks Rumi, and she asks her if she's serious, so Naori reminds her she just said she's over it. When Naori admits she's not really over it, Naori confesses she was kidding. Naori tells Rumi she's still in love with Jun, but Rumi tells her to piss off because she doesn't even want to talk to her, and they can never be friends. When she walks away, Naori mentions that she got to talk to Jun today, and he even stuck his tongue in her mouth. When Rumi turns around in shock, Naori laughs. Eventually, Naori tells Rumi that she's clearly not over the breakup, and she's been pretending that she's been in high spirits when she could hear her crying from her room. She tells Rumi she'll be going all out for Jun, and she should do the same instead of just pretending she doesn't like him so she doesn't regret it later. Later, they start talking about RIZZ, who's now studying in Canada. They remember how Jun resolved the issue between the three of them, and Naori points out that it was the day Jun became special to them. The next day, the girls head to school. Suddenly, Jun approaches them and Naori tells him she's going all out for these exams and she's going to crush him. She explains that she's decided on getting first place this time, after which she'll ask Jun out. She tells Jun that they've laid it out bare, that this is a love triangle, and they all need to accept it. The others think she's handling this a little too well, but Jun tells her asking him out won't change anything since he's decided to distance himself from all that. Regardless, Naori tells him he's easily swayed. After their exam that day, Rumi asks Jun to meet up with her in their spot and informs him Naori told her everything, pointing out that they were just playing her game. Later, Rumi asks if he really got swayed into kissing Naori, so Jun tries to explain. Rumi tells him she's so disappointed, especially after he took so long with her, which now makes her conflicted. Jun tries to explain that he stopped and tried to control himself because her face flashed before his eyes. This surprises Rumi, and she smacks Jun for saying that. Eventually, Jun asks that they chat every now and then, so she agrees. Meanwhile, RIZZ calls Naori a losing heroine. She tells Naori she's the character who causes chaos but brings the main character together. Naori feels she's been able to light a fire under Jun's behind, but RIZZ isn't buying it. Naori insists that she's hot. She's his first crush and she has bigger jubs than Rumi, which is a win. Sometime later, Naori approaches Jun and realizes her time has come with no fanfare. She's finally gotten the first position and goes to meet Jun, who had just checked his result. She tells him she understands the look on his face because his results must have been shocking. She tells him she'll help him out, but Jun just tells her he got first again though. When she checks his results, she realizes he tricked her by intentionally looking bad. When she storms out in anger to report him, Jun grabs her hand and asks her what's wrong. She accuses him of studying extra hard to prevent her from asking him out, so Jun asks her why she would think that. He tells her he studied well because she said she was going all out, and she would have been angry if he didn't bring his A game. However, he reminds her he wouldn't say yes even if she got first, and he's not planning to get back with Rumi either. When Naori sees Rumi walking past, she tells Jun to hug her to prove he means what he just said. Shocked, Jun asks her what she means, so she storms off angrily. When he sees she's angry, he hugs her, but Rumi sees them. Later, Rumi drags Jun to their spot and asks him what that was all about. He explains that Naori told him to do it if she wanted him to trust her, so he had to. Annoyed, Rumi tells him that he's letting Naori have her way with him like he always does. She tells him he has to give her a hug too and does a puppy face, which forces him to do it. While they hug, she tells him she made it to the first team, so Jun proposes that he come cheer her up during her game. After that, Rumi asks him if he knows who Amamiya Shiena is. Later, the girl named Shiena enters Jun's class and starts to call his name loudly in front of everyone. Jun tells her to keep it down, so she grabs his hand and drags him away, while Toyoshige watches in shock. Shiena drags him into the hallway, so Jun asks her if she needs anything. She pulls him closer and asks him to tutor her, especially since Rumi must have told him about it before. In a flashback, Jun tells Rumi he's never spoken to Shiena, but he's heard of her. He knows she's a flashy girl that's a model, so Rumi tells him Shiena wants him to tutor her. In the present, Jun asks Shiena to look for someone else, but Shiena tells him she came to give him a heads up, and they'll pick this up after school. When Jun returns to class, Toyoshige clicks his tongue at him. Another friend named Mizuma points out that he understands Toyoshige's spite, but Toyoshige tells him to back off. Eventually, Mizuma tells Jun that there are rumors that he picked Naori, but Jun tells him that's not what happened. When Toyoshige asks, Jun mentions that Shiena wants him to tutor her. Toyoshige asks him what he decided, especially since the girl has huge jugs. Jun tells him he's not going to do it because it sounds like a pain regardless of her chest size. This surprises Toyoshige, and he believes Jun is built differently. He tells Jun to recommend him for the job instead, and mentions that he couldn't ask her out because she clearly wanted nothing to do with him. He starts to fantasize about ravishing her artillery, but Jun says he won't recommend him for the job either. At the cafeteria, Naori can't eat because she has no appetite. RIZZ suggests she talk about what she wants right now to get her mind off her worries, so Naori says she wishes she had lots of cash so she could buy anything. After pouring out her heart, Naori thanks RIZZ for her help. When RIZZ suggests they celebrate Naori's upcoming birthday together, Naori becomes excited and suggests they get married. Meanwhile, Rumi approaches Mizuma to ask about Jun. Mizuma tells her he just stepped out and probably went to the bathroom. He also asks her when she wants to hold the joint basketball practice, so Rumi proposes the next day. Later, Rumi receives a text from Jun about how Shiena approached him to tutor her. In a flashback, when Rumi does some stretches later on, she listens to Shiena complain about her mother getting angry because she failed her exam. exams. Rumi advises her to ace her makeups, so Shiena asks if Rumi can get Naori to tutor her. Rumi tells her Naori's not a great teacher and mentions that June is better at it. That's when Shiena got the idea of asking June. Rumi wonders if she and June would get cozy, but later decides Shiena should be the last person she should be worried about. In the present, Rumi narrates how it all happened. She tells June she even suggested other people to Shiena, but she had already made up her mind. Rumi suggests he can just say no, so she suggests they meet with Shiena after practice to clear it up. Rumi also suggests they don't let Naori know about Shiena because they don't mix well. To prevent Naori from meeting Shiena, June decides to take extra measures. He texts RIZZ to meet up with her without Naori being around. RIZZ meets with him excitedly and tells him it's no problem, especially since she was expecting something saucier. Eventually, RIZZ tells her he thinks he should tutor Shiena because she's a hot model, but Jun tells her he's not interested in wasting his time after school. Regardless, RIZZ reminds him that he stopped focusing on the twins for now, but he can't get them off his mind. She suggests him focusing on another girl for now, but June immediately realizes she's trying to stir up a scheme. He'd rather not gamble with something that could end badly, so RIZZ reminds him that Naori's birthday is coming up soon. She asks him if he's figured out something to get her, so he tells her he hasn't because he's been trying to find something good. RIZZ offers to help him figure out what she wants most right now, and Jun finds the offer tempting. Later that day, Kanako, the girl who tripped Rumi, comes to ask if she's fine now. Rumi knows she feels bad, so she tells her she's all healed and tells her it wasn't her fault. Some of the other girls admit that Rumi wasn't herself and was always distracted after her breakup with Jun, which made them worried about her. Rumi is surprised that the other girls know about her breakup, but the girls reveal that Rumi is quite oblivious to think she can hide it. They even reveal that they know she meets with Jun at the top of the staircase because they happen to walk in on them kissing. The girls start to repeat the things she told Jun back at her to make fun of her, so Rumi tells them to shut up and get changed. After that, Rumi meets up with Shiena, who just finished a makeup class. Shiena gloats about how she ditched her makeup class, and she mentions that Jun must be lying in a ditch somewhere when Rumi asks where he is. June startles her from behind and tells her she's probably as heartless as a sea cucumber. When Shiena suggests dinner, June almost refuses, but Rumi nudges June to accept because Shiena has no company since her parents are barely around. June agrees, so Shiena grabs his arm so they can all have dinner at her place. Meanwhile, RIZZ tells Naori she forgot something in class and urges her to come back with her to get it. While they're heading back, they run into Toyoshige. When he asks them what they're doing in school so late, Naori tells him to hand over the girl's clothes he stole. When he explains he was just playing mahjong with the seniors and Jun isn't with him, he mentions that Jun is probably out to deal with what happened during lunch. RIZZ realizes where this is going, so she leaves. Naori asks Toyoshige what happened during lunch, and he begins to stutter. Meanwhile, Rumi and Jun enter Shiena's house and they realize it's really elegant. Shiena soon brings out her cat named Ein, and Rumi plays with it. While she's doing that, Shiena whispers in Rumi's ear and asks her if she likes June. Shocked, Rumi denies it and asks her where that came from. However, Shiena doesn't answer and accepts her answer. Shiena approaches Jun, so she asks him if she can call him by his first name or give him a pet name, and she notices he was flustered because he looked away. She asks him if her cleavage made him hot and bothered, so Jun gets up to leave. However, Shiena pushes him back on the couch and tells him he can't leave till dinner's ready. Meanwhile, Toyoshige is held at gunpoint and Naori peels out information about Shiena from him. This annoys Naori because Shiena is a pea-brained girl who always flaunts her cleavage and thinks she's the queen bee. This surprises Naori and she agrees with Toyoshige that Jun would never accept to tutor her. At Shiena's home, Jun and Rumi realize Shiena is a really good cook. At that point, Jun remembers that Rumi said Shiena's parents are barely around. He quickly brings up the issue about the tutoring, and then Shiena says she's glad he'll be taking her. He tells her he's not agreed to take her and asks that she show him her report card after they eat so he'll see. Later that evening, Rumi and Jun head back home. She apologizes for dragging him into that, so they start to talk about Rumi's match meetup. While they're walking, Naori approaches them from behind and asks them what they're doing out so late. Jun says they were taking care of something, but Rumi just tells her everything that happened since she knows she probably knows. When Naori hears about Ein the cat, she goes bonkers because she adores cats. When they eventually get home, Naori privately asks Jun if he declined Shiena's offer, so he tells her he's going to help her with her makeup exam. She asks him why, but he tells her he'll explain later. Later that night, Naori lies in bed thinking and can't make sense of why Jun would agree to tutor that girl. She keeps wondering why he would do so, and she starts to wonder if it's because of Shiena's chest. She later consoles herself that Jun is more of a leg guy, but it still doesn't satisfy her. Naori tries to convince herself that she's not jealous, but she doesn't want Shiena to waste Jun's time, so she has to do this for him. The next morning, Naori goes to Jun's house and startles him. When she sees a sex scene on the screen he was watching, she becomes surprised, but Jun tells her that it's a mistake and it's awkward timing. He quickly switches to another scene to show it's just a movie, so she tells him she's here to learn why she accepted Shiena's offer. Naori even offers to do better if he did it because of lust, but Jun claims that's not it, but it just happened. Naori asks him what they talked about the day before, but Jun's mother soon brings some delicious food. When Naori sees it, she proposes that she and Jun get married so she can join his family quickly. While they're eating, Naori asks to confirm if he's not interested in Shiena, and Jun affirms. Because of that, Naori asks if he could let her come along when he wants to tutor her, which surprises Jun. Sometime later, Jun tells Rumi he told Naori about the Shiena issue. After that, he tells her that Shiena had texted him to show up at her house for tutoring, even when he had asked if they could meet somewhere else. Jun confesses that he doesn't like the idea of going to Shiena's house on his own, so Rumi tells him she can't follow him today because of practice, but urges him to try it out. Later, Jun shows up in Shiena's apartment but ends up waiting for her. She gleefully apologizes that she was out chatting with friends and drags him by his hand so she can make food for him. When they enter, Jun pets the cat and Shiena tells him to sit while she takes a shower. Jun insists they should get to work, but she pleads that she needs to shower because her body is wet from the rain. Meanwhile, Rumi hangs out with the girls in a diner. The girls rejoice because of how well they did against the male team, but Rumi keeps wondering why Shiena asked her if she likes Jun. She hopes she's not interested in Jun, but one of her teammates informs Rumi that they spotted her sister outside. When Naori tries to escape after being spotted, Rumi catches on and asks what she's after. Naori tries to hide her intent, but Rumi nudges her, so Naori confesses that she thought Jun might have gone to Shiena's place and Rumi had gone with him. It annoys her that Rumi would make her spell it out like that, and she starts to leave. As she's about to leave, Rumi asks her if she'd like to join them to eat, but Naori refuses. She claims that the girls are a group of violent looters, but later gives in when Rumi offers to give her some dessert. Meanwhile, Jun pets Ain and Shiena walks in barely clad. When she steps out, Jun turns red, but she covers her eyebrows and apologizes. When she runs back to go fix her eyebrows, Jun wonders how she isn't seeing the bigger issue here. Later, while they're working, Jun asks her what that stuff she pulled earlier was. She apologizes that she didn't have makeup on, but Jun reminds her that's not what he's talking about. Regardless, Shiena claims she's spaced out, and there's no real difference between undies and a swimsuit. Jun insists that they're different, but Shiena insists she doesn't know what he's saying and claims that it's not like he's not interested in her. Jun affirms he's not. When she asks him who he's interested in, he tells her to go first and asks if she has a boyfriend. She admits she doesn't, even though she's interested in someone, but it's not what he thinks. Later, she mentions that there's someone she'd selfishly want to get to know better and informs him she's super dedicated, even though he'd never believe it. When Jun asks her who this person is, she says they go to their school and they're more like tea than coffee. Jun still doesn't get it, so she tells him they're in the smart class but doesn't say anything else. When it's Jun's turn, he tells her he has nothing, so she points out Rumi and asks if the two of them aren't dating. Jun explains that they are not, but they were once. This interests Shiena, and she claims to know they were dating the year before and confirms her suspicions. Jun tries to continue his work, but Shiena tries to know why they broke up and if they had a fight. Later that evening, Rumi and Naori head back home. While they're going, Naori asks Rumi if she's really okay with Jun tutoring Shiena. Rumi tells her not to worry because Shiena isn't Jun's type, but Naori doesn't agree and speculates that Jun could be into such flamboyant girls. In Shiena's house, she throws a tantrum that she needs a break in sugar. Jun accuses her of oversleeping and tells her she'll repeat the year if she keeps doing that. When Shiena hears that, she claims her mother will kill her if that happens. Shiena soon starts to crave chocolate, so she asks Jun to help her get some of her goodies from the lower cupboard. Reluctantly, Jun goes and the food flows out. When he comes back to give it to her, she runs off, but Jun chases her and forces the door open. When he opens it, he sees a room filled with collectibles and books, so Shiena tells him not to look. This surprises Jun, but Shiena pleads with him not to tell a soul about this. When Jun sees one of the collectibles, he realizes that's why Shiena named her dog in. Shiena becomes relaxed when she learns he's also interested in this kind of stuff. She explains that this was her father's previous office, but she and her brother later used it as a secret base for anime and stuff. Apparently, her parents are now divorced, but they still work together as fashion designers. When Shiena mentions that it's her father's wish to expand his business into Japan, Jun learns that's partly why Shiena's been modeling. He'd assumed she lived carefree, so he apologizes, but she doesn't know why he's apologizing. Meanwhile, Naori gets a message from RIZZ who asks her if she wants to go out. Before Naori can respond, RIZZ tells her she's outside her house. When she looks out, she finds RIZZ smiling at her like a serial killer. During a break, Jun and Shiena head to the store. He asks her what kind of gifts girls like, hoping to find something for Rumi. She gives him some advice and tells him to buy something she wants but won't buy for herself. When she says that, Jun decides on something. Shiena is excited but asks him if he won't also get something for Naori, so Jun assures her he has it covered. Later, Shiena brings up the fact that he's asking her advice on something to get his ex, and when he turns to leave, she grabs him and drags him through the store so she can get clothes. Meanwhile, Naori and RIZZ pick out some plushy toys. While they're picking things out, they see Shiena dragging Jun through the store, so Naori asks which article of the penal code murder comes under. Immediately, RIZZ tries to calm her down. Immediately, Naori sends pictures of Jun and Shiena having lunch, with her spoon feeding him to Rumi. She reminds her she assured her this won't happen, so Rumi rushes there to meet Naori. When they meet up, Naori asks her what she thinks, so Rumi says she's conflicted. However, she mentions that she's sure Shiena's not interested in him. When Naori demands to know why she'd say that, Rumi explains that Shiena already likes someone. However, that's not satisfactory to Naori because she believes things may have changed. Eventually, Naori insists that she's going to join the tutoring session tomorrow. The next day, she follows Jun dressed as an old teacher, so he asks her why she's dressed like that. When they meet Shiena, she's excited to see them, and she immediately gives Naori a pet name and allows her to call her one. When Shiena leaves, Naori asks Jun if she's always like this. When they enter the apartment, Naori gets excited and starts loving up on Ain. After that, Shiena gives her an object to roll on Ain's fur and place plays with him later, and Naori thanks her. Sometime later, Naori falls asleep, and Shiena's mom soon shows up. Jun tries to wake Naori up, and he goes to greet the mom. When Shiena's mom enters, she finds Jun cute, but Shiena tells her to stop with her teasing. When Naori wakes up, she attempts to explain they're just leaving, but Shiena's mom hugs her and tells her not to be a stranger. Later, Shiena's mom tells her that her father is in Japan and suggests calling up her brother so they can have dinner together. Shortly after, Jun and Naori walk back home, so he asks her what she thinks about Shiena. Naori admits that she doesn't have a problem having casual conversation with her, and while they're working, she grabs Jun's hands while they walk together. Sometime later, Toyoshige finds Jun buying a bottle for Rumi at the store since she can use it in her game. However, Toyoshige thinks it's boring and considers getting a gift for the girls too. Meanwhile, Rumi and Reira use the train, and Rumi mentions that she's nervous about her game the next day. Reira reminds her she's the only starter among the first years and tells her she'll do fine. Later, Rumi asks Reira how things are going with her boyfriend. Reira tells him they've made up, but she mentions that she gave him a piece of her mind too. While Reira talks about the love between her and her boyfriend, Rumi realizes she has put a lid on her own feelings. Because she can't bear losing the friendship the three of them had, she ran away from Jun and Naori. Rumi tells Reira she's amazing and she wishes she had her guts to confront people like that. Immediately, Rumi gets a text from Jun who asks if she has some time later. That evening, she goes to meet him in a park and takes her seat. For a moment, he doesn't say anything, so she brings up Shiena's makeup happening that day to ask if she did okay. Jun tells her Shiena told her she did fine, but he later wishes Rumi luck in her game the next day. Later, he reluctantly brings out her gift, even though it's a day early. He also tells her not to tell Naori because he's not given her her own yet. Rumi excitedly opens the gift and is amazed at the sight of the bottle. Jun mentions that she's been using her bottle since middle school, so he figured it needed an upgrade. Rumi excitedly thanks him and asks if she can hug him. They both start blushing, so he tells her to go ahead, so she hugs him deeply. While they're hugging, Jun says he feels like he's doing Naori dirty because he should give it to them at the same time, but he wanted to give Rumi this gift before her game. Even though he can't see her game tomorrow because of school, he asks her to make sure not to lose. She assures him she won't, so he tells her not to freak out when it seems her opponents are stronger because she's better. When she demands more motivation, he tells her he loves watching her play basketball, and that touches her. Eventually, she asks him if they can kiss like they used to because it will give her the strength to keep going. Jun asks her what she's saying, but she kisses him before he can reply. Later, Rumi returns home, and Naori welcomes her. For some reason, Naori coldly wishes her good luck on her game. Intrigued, Rumi goes in to check on Naori and confesses to her that she was with Jun earlier and he wished her good luck on her game. Naori tells her she doesn't have to report every little thing to her, but Rumi says she felt bad when Naori wished her good luck too. Eventually, Naori just tells her to forget it and go eat. The next day, Shiena excitedly tells Jun that her makeup exam the day before was a breeze because of his help. When Naori steps in, Shiena rushes to grab her and asks her to call her by her pet name. Naori's clearly uncomfortable, but Shiena soon leaves to continue her makeup exams. Later, Naori and Jun leave the school, and they both wonder how Rumi's game went. While they're going, Jun asks her if she has time and wants to stop somewhere, just like she asked him the last time. She suggests they go to her room instead. In her room, Naori takes off her socks, and it makes Jun blush and look away. Later, he calls for her attention and gives her her birthday gift. She excitedly receives it and finds a plushy seal inside, just like the one she had told RIZZ she loved. This excites Naori, but Jun brings out another package for her. When she opens it, it turns out it's a pair of glasses that's exactly like his own because she's shown interest in it. Immediately, she asks if he gave Rumi another pair and confirms if she's the only one sharing the same pair with him. She also asks him if he gave Rumi her gift yesterday before her, so Jun tells her he wanted Rumi to have it before the game and it wasn't preference. When he says that, she drags him closer and asks why he didn't just tell her. She laments that the both of them went behind her back, so Jun apologizes. After he apologizes, Naori asks him to pay more attention to her in that case. She asks him to spend more time with her and stop deciding to tutor other people with her and stuff. She mentions that she wants to talk to him like the old days and she doesn't understand how she's the one that has now been left out. When she starts to cry, Jun remembers what Toyoshige said to him about how he ran away from making a decision. Eventually, he hugs her and tells her he's sorry. She soon bites him and tells him she's hurting more than him. Amused, Jun asks that they hang out more and chat more. Later that evening, both families meet up to set up the twins' birthday party. When Naori sees the music collection her father chose, she tells him the music is way too dark, and Rumi agrees. Later, Naori complains when she sees Rumi and Jun wearing matching sneakers, so they both propose to take her to the store to get a matching pair. Earlier that day, RIZZ made a big treat for Naori's birthday. After thanking her, Naori reminds her she's now a year older than her and she needs to show her deference. They soon start eating and they talk about how they didn't like each other at first in middle school. In middle school, Naori was so smart that many of the girls said she was different. However, she didn't think they were different, but the girls had just limited themselves. When she tried to suggest other things, the girls left to join other groups. RIZZ doesn't leave and tells Naori that her smile is forced and she needs to practice more. In the present, Naori feels she's grown to become a wise, cute, and vivacious woman, but RIZZ wonders what on earth she's talking about. Later, Naori tells RIZZ she's been thinking about starting a club and roping Jun in. When RIZZ hears the doorbell ring, she goes to check it out. Soon after, Shiena steps in to wish Naori a happy birthday. Naori Naori is surprised, but RIZZ tells her Shiana wanted to celebrate with her. Shiana gives her an exquisite Galista bag, which she had told RIZZ she wanted but couldn't afford. Shiana also gives her another one for Rumi, as well as a cat necklace that she personally designed. When Naori asks how she designed it, she learns that Shiana's parents work as designers at Galista. After that, Shiana starts to blush because Naori finally called her by her name. Before Naori can respond, Shiana puts some cat ears on her as her next gift and then tells her she's super cute. When Naori demands to know what's happening, RIZZ confesses that Shiana asked her to help her get closer to her. However, this was a problem because Naori barely takes notice of those she doesn't care about. Because of this, RIZZ suggested that Shiana ask Rumi to tell Naori to tutor. Hearing that RIZZ planned it all almost makes Naori crazy, so RIZZ adds that she knows Rumi wouldn't introduce them and she'd pass the offer over to June. This was the only way for them to become friends. The girls apologize to Naori for tricking her, but Naori asks how RIZZ knows Shiana. RIZZ mentions that they met on an online game and Shiana's quite an otaku whom she'll like. Naori is overwhelmed, so Shiana tells her she wanted to be her friend and always thought she was cute since middle school. She immediately turns red and begs Naori not to get the wrong idea. The next day, June and Naori go watch Rumi's next game with their parents. Naori tells Jun that RIZZ was behind the whole thing. On the court, Rumi gets the ball, then gets blocked. At this point, both teams are just 1 point away from each other, so Rumi quickly passes the ball. When she gets the ball again, she realizes the time has almost run out, so she makes a shot and gets a three-pointer. Later that evening, Naori comes to check on her to congratulate her on the shot that won the game. She also wishes her luck on her next game, and they reminisce over the fact that it was actually Naori who introduced Rumi to basketball when they were much younger. Eventually, Naori asks her if she has gotten June to wish her good luck for her game the next day, and Rumi says she hasn't. Immediately, Naori forces her up so she can go to his house to get her wishes. When Rumi steps out, Naori reasons that this is her parting gift, but she won't be playing nice anymore. The next day, everyone shows up to cheer Rumi on during her game. On the court, Rumi tries to pass the ball, but it gets intercepted. When Naori complains, June points out that the opposing team is guarding her strongly because of the three-pointer she hit in the second round. They're making sure someone is always blocking her at every point. At the end of the game, the other team wins, and Rumi wishes she could have done better. However, RIZZ tells her she tried her best. That evening, Rumi doesn't go home and cries about their loss. The next day, she tries to send June a message to meet up, but she decides against it so she doesn't sound like a drama queen. When she leaves there, she runs into Mizuma, who asks her if she's going for practice that day. She responds negatively, so Mizuma tells her not to put all the weight on her shoulder because it wasn't her fault alone. He tells her he thinks she did well because he's always seen how well she's been taking this seriously since middle school. She thanks him and encourages him to do the same, so he tells her that he worries about her and can't seem to get her off his mind. Rumi stands there confused, so Mizuma tells her that he likes her. Meanwhile, Naori tells June that she wants to start a club, but he reminds her she's always hated the idea of spending more time at school. However, Toyoshige likes the idea and asks her what type of club it is. Eventually, Jun asks her why she wants to start a club and isn't impressed when she just says, "It sounds fun!" When he asks what the school rules say, Naori says they have to have 5 members and an advisor. Jun asks who the other 2 people will be apart from RIZZ, so Toyoshige hopes it'll be a refined but demure rich girl. Moments later, RIZZ enters and asks Naori if she's reached an agreement with Shiana. Naori tries to wave her off, but Shiana hugs her from behind. Naori immediately tells her to get off her, but Shiana just keeps hugging her. Confused, Toyoshige asks when they got close, but Naori denies it. It soon becomes clear that Toyoshige will be their new member, even though Naori hates it. Since she doesn't have a clear theme for the club, they realize their shared passion is anime, books, and movies. However, Jun realizes they won't get that approved, so he suggests they call it reviews and art criticism so it sounds more official. Naori also suggests they release an editorial during the school festival. Shortly after, Ria runs into Rumi sulking somewhere, and Rumi rushes to her to get advice on what just happened. Ria mentions that she figured that Mizuma would do something like that soon, but Rumi mentions that she's been oblivious to the fact that he felt that way. When she asks Rira what she should do, Rira tells her to turn him down. But when she realizes Mizuma didn't officially ask her out, she tells her to just play it cool and ignore it. Ouch. We all feel your pain, Mizuma. That evening, Jun tells Naori he hopes her club gets approved because they may be able to get other members to talk to. However, Naori doesn't seem to care much about that and says she's fine with just having fun with friends. Meanwhile, Mizuma approaches Rumi once more and apologizes about how selfish he was the last time. He asks her if she's dating June, which shocks her, so she tells him they're not. Eventually, he asks her if he's dating Naori because he heard things, but she tells him they're not dating either. This surprises Mizuma, so she tells him she and her sister are in love with Jun. After talking about how hard it must be for her and how Naori and June seem to be close, she almost gets angry, but he manages to calm her. Eventually, he asks her if she'd like to go on a date with him and asks her to think about it. Rira comes to take Rumi away and learns what happened. It annoys Rira that Mizuma might have been trying to bring Rumi down by spending on how close Naori is to June so he can have his way with her. Rumi thinks she's overthinking it, but Rira tells her to quickly go out with June if she really likes him. Meanwhile, June types a letter to send to a school official named Yoda to ask if she can become their club advisor. Suddenly, he gets a call from Rumi, who asks him if he's friends with Mizuma. June affirms that, so Rumi asks him what they talk about. June says they just talk about stupid guy stuff, so Rumi ends the call. After the call, Jun decides to let Naori tell Rumi about their club. The next day, Naori suggests that RIZZ become club president, but RIZZ tells her she'll only agree if she becomes vice president. While they're chatting, RIZZ asks her if she's told Rumi about the club, and Naori responds that she's under no obligation to report everything she does to her. RIZZ asks her if she's still holding grudges over what happened the other day, but Naori responds that she'll just tell her after it works out. Meanwhile, RIZZ tries to get Rumi to make a joke out of Mizuma's date proposal, but she refuses to. Eventually, RIZZ tells her she's basically playing into Mizuma's hands if she continues this, especially since she's now thinking about him all the time. Rumi doesn't think he's that deviant, but RIZZ tells her to take care of it regardless, since she doesn't want to date him. After school, Rumi tells Mizuma she can't go on a date with him and apologizes. He replies that he won't beg her to be his girlfriend, but he hopes they can hang out once in a while as friends. However, Rumi mentions that she may not be able to do it because she knows how he feels, so Mizuma starts to regret telling her and apologizes. Rumi tells him he doesn't have to apologize, so he asks if they can go back to the way things were. Eventually, she agrees, as long as the others can know about it. Meanwhile, Jun gets approval for the club, as long as they don't cause trouble. They go to meet the others to break the news, but they soon gang up on Toyoshige as usual. Eventually, Jun breaks the news that they got approval, but another club called the Recreation Club has requested the same club room they want. The Recreation Club plans to do research into board games and is led by some person named Furuma. When Naori learns that, she plans to make Furuma give up on the room. Jude and Naori head to the train station, where they run into Rumi, who's standing there with Reira. When they enter the train, Reira reminds Rumi to do what she asked. The three friends soon head home. Rumi tells Jun she'll call him later that evening. When she finishes her bath, Naori comes to ask if Rumi knows anybody in Furuma's class. When Rumi asks what this is about, Naori doesn't say anything. When she leaves, Rumi asks Jun if it's okay if she hangs out with Mizuma. When he asks what this is about, she tells him Mizuma asked if they can hang out sometime, but she wanted to ask him first. Jun tells her there's no need to ask him since she's free to hang out with who she wants, so Rumi tells him Mizuma told her he likes her. For a moment, Jun remains silent. Then he asks her what she told Mizuma. Rumi tells him she told him she didn't feel the same way, but he asks that they hang out without pressuring her. Jun seems surprised because Mizuma had never mentioned it and has a hard time processing it. Eventually, he asks Rumi what she wants to do, but Rumi insists that this is not about her. Jun reminds her he doesn't have a right to determine who she hangs out with since they're not dating anymore, but it makes Rumi tear up that he doesn't want to say anything. When he says he doesn't want to be irresponsible, she accuses him of being irresponsible because he doesn't want to say his mind, so he's not held accountable to it. She starts to cry because she didn't want to keep it from him, and when Jun tells her not to cry, she calls him a jerk and throws away the phone. When Naori hears the noise, she enters the room and finds Rumi crying. She goes to console her and asks if she wants to talk about it. When she tells Naori about it, Naori simplifies it by saying she wanted Jun to stop her, but he didn't. When Naori asks her if she's going to go out with Mizuma, Rumi says she doesn't know. Naori asks her why she doesn't choose to go, which shocks Rumi. The next day, Jun gets a text from Rumi, who apologizes for the night before and asks if he has time to talk that day. He runs into her in school, but she doesn't say anything to him. Later, Naori tells her friends it's time to prepare for war against the second-year classroom. Apparently, she had put up Shiena to raid a second-year classroom, which Naori likes. Shiena clarifies that she didn't raid it, but only entered the class to speak with Furuma to schedule a talk with him. The boys realize they can't keep their seniors waiting, so they rush to meet him. Shiena tells them she has to go out, so she leaves them to go meet Furuma. Once they get there, Shiena tells Jun that he has to do the talking when they get there. When they enter the room, Furuma gets straight to the point and brings up how Shiena made a huge scene during lunch. The boys apologize, so Furuma tells them to tell her to stop talking casually to people she just met. Eventually, he tells them that he can't give them the club room because there's nowhere else they'd go, so Jun reminds him that their own group already has 5 members, while Furuma's group still needs one. When Furuma points out that it isn't against the school rules since they requested the room first, Jun proposes a match to settle who gets the room. Furuma doesn't get what's in it for him, so Jun tells him he'll join his club if he wins the game. Furuma likes the idea, so he asks him how they'd compete, so Jun says they'll compete in chess, which is what his group is about. Furuma is amused by his confidence, but he tells him that he wants the chance to pick his opponent. Jun has no choice but to agree, so Furuma points at Naori and asks her if she's played chess before. She admits that it's been a long time, so Furuma tells her to work off the rust. He tells them they can choose when they'd like to play and suggests 1 week from now, but Naori chooses 2 days. When the guys leave, they realize Furuma was looking down on Naori, and that pleases her because she was acting. Eventually, Jun tells her he doesn't know she played chess, especially since she always turned him down. So she tells him her dad always forced her to play when she was much younger, and she feels she can get it since she plays shogi. She tells Jun he can also teach her too, so Toyoshige starts to fear 2 days may not be enough time. Meanwhile, Rumi flashes back to what Naori said to her. In the flashback, Naori tells her that she wouldn't go with Mizuma if she were in her shoes, but they're not the same people. She says that she suggested it to see how Jun would react if she hung out with Mizuma. She also reminds her that she'll be acting nasty if she keeps Mizuma around as a convenient tool without making a decision. Rumi thinks Naori is being mean and wonders what will happen if Jun stops her. Naori thinks that'd be interesting and confesses that she doesn't think Jun will decide to do anything. In the present, Kanako teases Rumi about her spacing out. out. She also asks her why Mizuma wanted to speak to her the other day, so the other girls ask if Mizuma asked her out. Rumi doesn't speak and leaves them to their fantasies, but she mistakenly mentions that she wouldn't say so. Mizuma doesn't feel bad. That gives the gang enough clues they need, and they start to talk about how many girls are interested in Mizuma so Rumi could get attacked. Later, another girl named Mai secretly tells Rumi that she dated Mizuma a while back, so Rumi asks to meet up with her later so they can talk about this. The girls head to a diner where Mai tells the others about how she dated Mizuma during spring break. She mentions that she got dumped real quick, and he had initially said no when she asked before. Apparently, she begged him to try it out for a week, but it didn't turn out well. When the girls asked her why he dumped her, Mai says Mizuma said he liked someone else. When the girls leave the diner, Kaneko complains that the girls always leave her out of the loop when it comes to their lives with boys. Eventually, she tells Rumi to hang out with Mizuma and then asks him about Mai. She proposes that Mizuma can get back together with Mai since Rumi isn't interested. Mai tries to stop her but eventually admits that she still likes Mizuma. Because of that, Rumi promises to meet up with Mizuma. Eventually, Rumi gets a message from Jun, who tells her he'll be waiting at the train station to talk about what happened last night. Soon after, Jun gets a message from her to explain that she's with her teammates and can't make it. When Jun gets home, Naori shows up to start her chess training. Jun asks her how much she remembers about chess, so he realizes she remembers a good amount. Meanwhile, Rumi texts Jun once more to apologize about the night before and promises to contact him again to talk about it. After training for a while, Jun tells Naori it's time to leave so her mom doesn't get worried she's out too late. Naori insists that her mom won't mind since she's with him, and she can even sleep over, but Jun dismisses her. He tries to show her a novel, but she hugs him from behind and tells him she wants to stay. She wonders why it was okay when they were children, but not now, so Jun tells her she knows why. Eventually, she leaves. When Rumi gets home, she learns that Naori is at Jun's place. She gets a message from Jun, who suggests they grab lunch the next day to talk. The next day, Jun learns that Naori is learning chess, which is unlike her. Jun realizes that Naori hasn't told her about the club. Uncertain if he should break the news, he decides to tell her when Rumi agrees to pretend like he never told her. Eventually, he tells her she was right to say he was irresponsible the other night. He says Mizuma's a good friend, so he doesn't want to do him dirty, but he also knows he didn't like the idea. He confesses that he doesn't know what to do, so he simply wanted to hear her thoughts. When he says that, Rumi apologizes for putting him in such a position against his friend because she wanted to just get him to stop her. She points out that he said he didn't like the idea and asks if he'd have any issue with her hanging out with him, since she needs to ask him something about her teammate. He tells her he didn't like it, but he didn't want to sound pathetic by asking her not to hang out with him since they're no longer dating. Eventually, he tells her she can hang out with him. Later that day, Rumi tells Mizuma she'll hang out with him, and they schedule for the next day. When she gets home, Rumi thinks about what she'll wear the next day, but her mom soon enters to ask if she'd like to join the Shirazakis for dinner since Jun's mom asked. Rumi decides to join Naori during her chess training, and Rumi mistakenly hints that she knows Naori is training for the club match. At this point, I don't know if Rumi's just playing stupid or if she has no ability to keep secrets. When they continue their game, Rumi finds out that Naori has the upper hand in the game. Naori intentionally gives up her queen, and Jun takes it even though he knows it's a trap. Soon enough, Naori wins. After losing, Jun realizes he's no longer worried about Naori's performance. The girls soon start to tease Jun about how he talks, and they enjoy a good laugh. The next day, Rumi leaves home to meet Mizuma, but runs into Jun in the front door. When she leaves, he doesn't look so happy about it. When they get to school, Shiena shows up to their club meeting late but brings some snacks to appease them. Later during the day, Jun gets a text from Mizuma who tells him he's serious about Rumi. Naori mistakenly sees the message and asks Jun if he's worried. She tells him he can go if he's worried and it's bothering him, but she asks him to come back once it's all sorted so he can make it up to her. He reminds her the chess game is about to start, but he admits he's bothered, so she tells him he can go as long as he tells her what happened later. Jun thanks her and decides to leave. As he's about to leave, she grabs his hand and asks him for her goodbye kiss. At this point, it's clear these girls are using our boy for his body, and I don't know if he's enjoying it or just plain stupid. Jun looks at her in confusion, so she tells him she's disappointed and asks him to leave. Feeling bad, Jun decides to kiss her on the cheek. Naori asks him why he went for the cheek, so Jun tells her he can't go any further. To help him out, Naori grabs his face and kisses him by herself. After doing that, she tells him where Rumi is so he can go meet her, because meanwhile, Rumi and Mizuma chat while walking around. While they're talking, Mizuma asks her what she likes about Jun, so Rumi says she doesn't know. Mizuma tries to probe further, so she says maybe it's because they've always been together. He asks her if he'd have a chance if Jun wasn't around, so she tells him they'll never know. Eventually, she asks if there's a chance he'll go back to Mai, so Mizuma realizes he's in Mai's shoes now in his relationship with Rumi. He admits he doesn't dislike Mai, but he doesn't have feelings for her. When they bring up Rumi's relationship with Jun, they laugh about how Rumi is also in the same position with Jun. At the school, Naori starts with white and makes her move. While they play, Furuma realizes she's good and confirms that Jun taught her. While playing, Furuma realizes that Jun and Naori are sci-fi buffs, along with the rest of them. While they're playing, Furuma decides to let them have the room even if they win or lose. This excites the others, but Furuma decides to continue the chess game regardless. He explains that he has no attachment to the room, but he just didn't appreciate them asking him to hand it over. Meanwhile, Jun gets to the place Naori described to him and looks around for Rumi. While checking, he gets an update on his phone that Furuma has agreed to give them the club room. He keeps looking around but doesn't find Rumi and Mizuma, so he wonders if they've gone elsewhere to grab a bite. Eventually, he finds them sitting by the lake, so he approaches Rumi to speak with him. When Mizuma sees him, Mizuma points out that he came, and Jun tells him he had to after the message he sent to him. Mizuma explains that he just said how he felt and asks him if he's here to tell him not to take his girl. Jun tells him to shut up and tells him to say what's on his mind after the message he sent to him. When Rumi tells him to explain what they're talking about, Jun apologizes to Rumi for not making everything clear. He tells her it meant the world to him that she liked him and asked him to go out with her. When they broke up, he kept thinking they could get back together, but he soon realized it wasn't right. This wasn't because he prefers Naori, but that's just how it is. He explains that he didn't make himself clear, but now he wants to confess that he loves her and Naori. He realizes this sounds messed up, but he can't seem to choose between either of them after all the time they've spent together. He admits he was running away, and his weakness hurt her and Naori. He promises to make a decision if she'd be willing to allow him to overcome his weak nature. Eventually, Rumi tells him she's glad to hear this, but it also hurts. She agrees to wait but tells him the ball is in his court. Immediately, Mizuma tells Jun he's just putting things off and hasn't decided anything. He explains that he can't accept that since he's the guy who asked Rumi out. He asks Jun who he thinks he is to ask her to wait for him, but Rumi tells him she's fine knowing that Jun's taking it seriously. Regardless, Mizuma tells Rumi she's spoiling him and that's why he has such a big head. Jun tells Mizuma it'd be an insult to pick without thinking about it, but Mizuma tells him he'd pick Rumi in an instant. He tells Jun he's being greedy and that pisses him off. Jun tells him to use his brains and not his muscles, so Mizuma asks Rumi what she sees in Jun when she can't trust him to be there for what matters. Rumi agrees that Naori said something similar, but she defends him by saying that Jun always put them first. She explains that Jun has always been a shoulder to cry on and he's always stuck with her. When the boys start arguing again, Rumi asks Jun why he came there and how he knew where they were. When she asks Mizuma if he told him, he says he didn't, but he wanted to know how Jun really felt by sending that message. Jun eventually admits that Naori told him, so Mizuma leaves Jun with Naori. Meanwhile, Furuma admits defeat in their game and asks Naori if they can play again. Naori teases him and tells him he'd have to offer her something to play again, so RIZZ reminds her that Furuma gave them the club room, so she has to be nice. Naori and Shiena go to the restroom, and Naori becomes worried that Jun is still with Rumi. Meanwhile, Jun and Rumi have a chat about old days at the Jinguji house. Before the leave, Rumi learns that Naori is at Shiena's place. When she texts Naori to tell her they're having dinner with Jun, Naori tells her she can't make it. This worries Rumi, and she wonders what Naori's angle is and if she has finally given up. Meanwhile, Naori and RIZZ enjoy a delicious dinner at Shiena's place. While they eat, RIZZ realizes that Naori is planning something lewd with a boy when she avoids smelling like garlic. Shiena affirms that Naori is making a move on Jun that night, so RIZZ asks Naori why she didn't tell her. RIZZ thinks Naori will run into trouble since it's Jun, but Naori tells her it's do or die this time, and she has a plan. At the Jinguji home, Jun watches a movie with Mr. Jinguji. Rumi soon comes to drag Jun away so they can go to the convenience store. When they head out, Rumi tells Jun she brought him out to talk to him. She asks him if he had fun talking with her today, and when he says he did, they hold hands. Later that night, Naori asks Jun to let her stay the night at his place. He's surprised by her request, but Jun seems uncomfortable with that since nobody is home. When he hesitates, she asks him what the problem is since she's just staying the night, and she reminds him that he ran off with Rumi and didn't come back, which hurt her. This girl is a professional gaslighter. When Jun hesitates, she asks him if he hates her and if she's being annoying. Jun tells her it's not like that, but he loves her and Rumi, and he cares about the both of them. He explains that this is why he's not been able to give a reply, so Naori tells him to let her stay over if he really loves her. She threatens to camp outdoors if he doesn't let her stay with him, and she'll run off with some random person. When he realizes she's hell-bent on this, he lets her into the house. When he tells her he feels icky, she suggests he take a bath and pressures him until he does. Inside the bath, he wonders why she's putting him through all this. When he prepares his bath, he tells Naori to promise not to pee, and she tells him that's her line. While he's in the bath, the light suddenly goes off, and Jun wonders if Naori turned off the light. When he asks her what she's doing, she enters the bathroom naked, and Jun immediately turns around in shock. When he turns around, she touches him and asks if he wants her to wash his back. Jun tells her to quit messing around, but she tells him she's not. When he protests, she hugs him from behind, so Jun tries to leave. She doesn't let him leave if he doesn't soak in the bathtub, so he eventually gives in. When he gets in the tub, she asks him if his heart is also racing like hers because they're naked. Immediately, Jun jumps out of the bathtub and leaves the bathroom. In a flashback to when they won the club room, Toyoshige notices Naori's sour expression because Jun didn't return. He asks her what she likes about Jun and asks her to tell him it's not because Rumi got to him first, because if that's the case, there's no need to put herself through, because in the present, Naori realizes Toyoshige believes she's not doing this out of competition, but because she really loves Jun. When she finishes taking her bath, Jun tells her she can sleep in the guest room. However, she tells him she wants to sleep in his room, so he asks her if she's insane. When he refuses, she insists that she wants to and tells him about the game today. While they're chatting, Naori pushes Jun on the bed, and they end up sleeping on the same bed. Later that night, she asks him why he ran out of the bath, so he tells her He had to, because he's a guy and they're not dating. She asks him if it'd be okay if they're dating, so she asks him to date her. He tells her he can't right now, so she reminds him she's been waiting forever and it's not fair. She turns him around and tells him to kiss her, and he does. Eventually, they embrace each other, so Jun tells her he loves her. She asks that they start going out in secret and then go all the way, but he tells her it's not happening. He says he doesn't want to lie to Rumi or break her trust. Sometime later, Naori falls asleep. The next day, Jun asks Toyoshige for advice, and Toyoshige thinks he's just bragging at this point. He asks Jun if he did, and when he says he didn't, he loses his cool and asks why on earth he didn't. When he confirms that they at least kissed, he still can't believe they didn't go further. Meanwhile, the girls are excited to hear about Naori's kiss with Jun. In the cafeteria, Toyoshige asks Jun how he feels about Naori, so he says he loves her, vibes with her, and would love to go out with her if he could. Toyoshige tells him he can just do that, but Jun says he loves Rumi just as much and he can't forget the year they were dating. When Jun mentions to Toyoshige that he got in the bath with Naori, Toyoshige becomes filled with extreme rage and chases him around the hall to take his life. Later that day, Jun's parents decide to take a weekend vacation with the Jinguji family, so Jun's mom tells him about it. Jun doesn't really like the idea, but he has no choice. He soon gets a text from Rumi about the trip that came out of nowhere and one from Naori saying it's time for them to share the same bed again. He chats with Rumi about how they have no choice but to follow their parents, but Naori reminds him that they have to repay their parents by giving them grandchildren. The next day, both families reach the camping site. They have some exotic drink in the morning that tastes really bland, while the parents talk about how at least one of their daughters will marry Jun. When the sun goes down, Rumi and Jun chat, but Naori comes to join them. While they're talking, Jun suggests they go check out the observatory. They go out to check out the stars and chat about how Rumi used to love astronomy when they were children. While talking, the girls have an argument again, and Naori brings up how the three of them never talk together anymore. When Naori tells Rumi to spare her the pity crap she pulled when she left Jun because of her, Rumi points out that she knew how long Naori had loved Jun. Naori reminds her she still asked him out despite knowing that, so Rumi mentions that she worked up the courage to ask him because she loved him, and she doesn't have to take this crap from Rumi who didn't do anything. Rumi remembers that she realized that Jun might hate her for asking him out, but she decided to give it a shot. When she asks Naori what she did, Naori claims she was fine with how things were, and she knew things would break down if Jun started going out with either of them. Jun tries to calm them down, but Naori mentions that she was the one who told Jun to put a stop to her date with Mizuma, and she was the one who told her to go out with Mizuma too. That annoys Rumi so much that she slaps Naori, then asks her if she thinks it's fun to toy with her heart like that. Naori tells her she was the one toying with herself, especially when she had told her to drop the whole big sister, little sister crap, but she's let it bind her for so long. Rumi claims she decided to wait for Jun, but Naori tells her she just ran from the choice. Eventually, Rumi tells Naori she just likes instigating trouble, and that makes her look pathetic. At that point, Naori slaps Rumi and asks her who she thinks she is to call her pathetic when she doesn't know a thing about her. Rumi tells her she always acts like she's special, and the argument becomes more heated. When they start fighting, Jun comes in to separate them, but he gets hit in the face. After he gets hit, they ask him why he didn't dodge because it makes him look like a dweeb. Eventually, Jun tells them their feelings for him make him feel so happy, and that's why it's hard to choose just one of them. He tells them he loves them both so much, and he has tried to figure out a way for the three of them to get along, but it's clear that won't work. He knows choosing one will hurt the other, and choosing neither will hurt both. However, he can't do that yet, and he doesn't want them both to come to despise him. The girls remind him that he'll just be a jerk if he wants to maintain things as they are, and Jun agrees. However, he promises them he won't run away. The girls tell him he's locking himself into a world of pain, so Rumi promises to wait for him, while Naori promises to keep doing things to make him say he loves her. Sometime later, the group gets the club room. When Rira enters, Toyoshige tells her she's welcome to come change in the room if she wants, but Rira looks at him like a bug.